Hi, in this video we're going to look at ASP.NET and I'm going to show you something about controllers. So the application that we're going to create here is a demonstration of how you can do custom routes. So watch what I do up here on my application. This is the default MVC application that we created in the last video. Now we're going to add something to it. So I have something called products here, and you can see that I have a new route, it's called. And then after products, I can put in something called message. Let's put in message, and you can see an important message. And then finally, I'm going to have something called welcome, and welcome will provide a welcome message. And then I'm going to provide also some parameters, so I can put my name in, for example, and a secret number, and I'm going to get a result back. So that is the goal of our lesson. We're going to learn about these different things called controllers and routes, and how to pass information around from the URL and into a page. So that's right ahead here in your next step in learning ASP.NET. So I'm going to shut down this app and we'll start again from scratch. So I will go to the File menu and close this solution that's going on right now, and we'll start from scratch. Okay, so here we are at the main screen. I'm going to start a new project, and I'm going to select this ASP Core Web Application with C#. And let's choose Next. Now, for the application name, I'm going to call this Activity 2. So for this application, I'm going to make sure that I'm selecting Core 5.0, no authentication, the MVC or a Model View Controller, and Create. So it looks like the application is up and running, so I will close the welcome screen. And then let's take a look around here and see what we have here. So remember, we have a controller, a model, and a views folder over here. And we're going to add some new items. But let's just check to see where we are right now. I'm going to run the application and just look at what the default is. So here we are at this default application, and we have two pages. We have a home page and a privacy page. So we're going to add some new material here. So let's close the app, and it looks like I have to stop the program. So what we're going to do now is take a look and add a new controller. So I'm in the controllers folder, and I right click, and I'm going to choose Add a New Controller. Now we're going to work with products in this application, so I'm going to create one for products. Now there are three choices for controllers. We're going to choose empty, but you can see that there is a controller with some built-in code, and then something called with views using Entity Framework. So this is the simplest one on the top. The one on the bottom will attempt to create a whole series of code for you, and I'll have another tutorial called a crash course on ASP.NET, which will allow you to create a full application with very little time and just a few mouse clicks. But I consider that kind of cheating if you don't know how you're supposed to work. But let's take a look here for a second at the intermediate controller. See what this thing says with write and read and write actions. We're going to delete this controller in a minute, so we'll just name it something, and I'm going to call it maybe like users. I don't know if we'll delete it or not, but I'm going to create it like there. So users, let's say we had a whole bunch of actions that we want to do with our users objects. So we want to create new users, we want to edit them and display them. And so you can see all the methods here are created for us. So get users, here's get the details, and it says if you have a user ID number. So these are all different actions that you would put into your URL. So it's nice that Visual Studio creates all of these routines for us. And we're going to get to all these in the course in due time, but for right now we're just going to notice that there's a lot of code that's written for us. So we'll just ignore this users controller for now. It doesn't actually work yet. We'd have to add some more materials. So I'm going to add another controller, and this time we're going to choose the simpler one. So I'm going to choose the MVC controller that is empty. So not a lot of code in this one. And we're going to make a bunch of products. So let's choose the word products controller down here. And that's my name down there. And let's choose add. So here it is. So products controller is much simpler than the users controller I just made. All I have is an index method, and it says return a view for index. So you might notice that if we look in the views area, we have a home folder for the home controller. There is not a folder called products yet. So if we ran this and tried to get to the controller called products, it would not work. But just believe me, it won't work. Let's make one new view. So I'm going to actually let the computer do it for me. I'm going to right click in this section where I have the index method, and there's an add view option. Let's choose that. So I have two options here. I have one that's empty and then one that's called Razor View. So I'm going to select the second one called Razor View and add. So here is the suggested name for my new view. Remember, a view is like a web page. So what is this thing going to be called? Well, I'm going to leave it at index because it matches this name up here in my method that I'm calling. So this file name should match the method name. I'm going to leave it empty. There is no model. We haven't worked with models yet, so we'll just not deal with that. I do want to check where it says partial view. So partial views are meant to work inside of the layout, the main layout. And so this will be a very short page. Let's choose add. As a matter of fact, it's so short that there'll be actually no code written at all. Now, you're seeing that it's installing some things. You might see a message that said NuGet is getting some packages, and those are programs that are automatically generating code. So it takes a little bit of time. And you will notice over here in the Views folder that there will be a new item that will pop up. There'll be a new folder called Products. And inside it, you should see Index. Okay, so you can see the new folder here, Products, and inside of there is an item called Index. So the file name at the top of the screen is Index. So that is where it automatically placed our new view. So remember, a view is just a web page. So next I want to just put in some text. I'm going to put in a headline and then a paragraph. So H1, and let's put in something like the products index page. You can title it anything you want, really. And then the message, we can also put in any kind of a string you like. So I'm going to say, we will display a list of products here very soon. So we will have products eventually, but not yet. Okay, so what do we do now? We have a new controller and we have a new view to go with it. Let's see how this works in our application. All right, it looks like the application's up and running, which is great. So I have the privacy link and the home link. Where is the products link? Well, I don't have a products link yet. I have to code that, but I can get to it. If I come up to the URL, you can see that it is chosen home/privacy. Well, if I delete that and replace it with a new controller name, such as products, what do we get? We get the products index page. So how did it know index page? Well, it just assumed that the word index was there. So I could use the word index as an item afterwards, and I'll get the exact same result. So index is a special case. We're going to create another page here instead of index, and we'll have to type it in there. So there is no direct link in the URL, in the nav bar yet. So we have to find the products link this way. Now, what is that item called where it says products or home? That is considered a route. Let's go see where that is defined in our program. So let's close the app, and it looks like we're going down into the area called Startup. So the very end of your project, startup.cs. And there's a whole bunch of things in here that we will cover in the course. Things that are called middleware and some configurations. But what we're looking for is at the very bottom of the file, and it says here app use endpoints, and then there's a function called endpoints map controller route. So routes are the pathway of execution based on the URL that the user types. And you can see that there is a default router. So obviously that's the one that always is used unless there's something else specified. But what's a router? So the router says I'm going to intercept the pattern called controller, action, and ID. You notice there's a slash character between each of those. So the controller is the controller name. And we saw home and products were our two controllers that we have running. And if we don't specify a controller, this equals home says we will have a default as the home controller. Then the action is also defined here as the second slash. And you notice the default is index. So that's why you have the option to include index or not to include index. And then the last item here is the parameters. It says ID question mark. So a question mark means this is optional. It doesn't have to be there. It can be left alone. And so we're going to now add another message, another action to our controller, and then finally we'll put in some parameters. And so this line right here is an important piece of code that interprets whatever you type in the URL. So let's go back to the controller here and open up the products controller. Now I'm going to add another method. So the method that I'm going to put in here is going to have a string as a return type. So this will not return a full HTML page. It's just a string message. And that's what we'll call it, message. You can name this anything you wanted as long as you remember what it says. Message is the word that I'm using. And I'm going to return a string. So just a quotation with a string inside of it. Doesn't matter what you say here, some message. Let's run this and see what happens when we return a string. Hey, the app is up and running again. I'm going to move the browser aside so we can see the controller items over here. So remember, our controller that we created is called products. So if I type in the word products, I get the products index page, which is the first method. Now the second method we could also type in here. So you could put a slash and then the method name, which is message. So let's put in message and press enter. And we get a string returned instead of a full web page. And you can see that this is the same string that we typed down here. So this is to illustrate how to route from a controller and then the action of that controller next. So if I were to put something in that doesn't exist yet, so if I were to put in something like a junk URL and press enter, I am going to get nothing. It looks like there is no action associated with that. What happens if I don't put in the correct controller? If I put in ASDF and press enter, it also looks like I get nothing. So sometimes you can turn on the error messages and you will see obviously that this is not a route that you can find, but it looks like my application is configured to display nothing at all. So let's close this and let's go back and add another method. So let's change our message now, and instead of a string return type, I'm going to copy what was up here. This is an iActionResult. So iActionResult, as you can see, is one of the expected values that's here. Now, what is an iActionResult, and why did we use that name? So I'm going to switch over to some documentation here. I'm in Microsoft's Docs, and we're looking at what iActionResult is. So it says that you can have a lot of different things that are derived from this interface. You can see that it's an interface with a lot of almost like you would call them subclasses or derived interfaces. So if you wanted to display JSON data, for a REST API, then you would use JSON result. If you wanted to just use the view result here, which is to show a view or a web page, then you would use that one. If you wanted to redirect somebody to another page, such as there was an error or if there was some processing you wanted to do somewhere else, you could do that. So you could click on any one of these to see where they would lead. So this one here is what we're using when we have the word view. It usually is shortened form of view result. So when we get back to this code here, you can see now the return value has an error now because it's no longer a string. It says this is underlined. It's got the angry underline there, the red underline, and it's expecting to have view as the type. So if this works, then we will have a web page. Now, what's it going to return? It's expecting this really inside. It's expecting the view called message because that's the name of the method here. However, we don't have a item called message over here. So let's have the computer create one for us. I'm going to right click over here, choose add view, and let's choose the razor view and choose add. And you can see that it's predicting that we want to make a view called message. So we'll leave all these options here and choose add. So now what will we get out of this? We should have a new web page. So you can see that there is a new item called message and the srcs HTML is the extension, so it is a web page. Now, what are we going to put in here? I'm going to put in just some more text. So to demonstrate that this is truly a web page, I'm going to type in some HTML. So let's use a heading again. So H1, and I'll call this important message. And then in the paragraph below, I'm going to say this page is important. Well, actually, I'll say unimportant. And I'm going to use extremely with the emphasis tag. And then the rest of it will say this page was placed here only to demonstrate that a view can be called from a controller. And I better make sure that I get the paragraph ended correctly. And then for the last sentence, I'm going to put paragraph and say, thank you for your understanding. So this will generate some HTML code, and it's a partial view, so it will fit nicely into the rest of the layout. So I'm going to run the application and see how this looks. Okay, so the app is up and running. Now here's your challenge. How do I get to this page? So there is no link in the nav bar. So how do I get to it? So let's try something that doesn't work, first of all. So I think it's message, right? So I'm going to put in the word message. Didn't work. That's because message is the action. What I'm looking for is the controller. So I put it in products, and then the last thing is message. And so there, we got it. So important message comes up, and you can see that I have done a little bit of formatting with the HTML. So message is being produced. All right, let's go back and try something else in the products controller. I'm going to add another method and call it welcome. So I'll start off this welcome method with just a string type, and we'll return a message that says hello. Now, what I want to do with welcome is show you how to use parameters. So inside the parentheses of the method, I'm going to put two different variables. The first one is a string, and I'll call it name. The second parameter, I'll call it a secret number, and it's an integer. Now, those are things that are expected to be passed in through the URL in the browser's address bar. I'm going to add one more item here for the secret number, and I'm just going to give it a value of default to be 13. So if the user doesn't put in any number, then 13 becomes the default number. Then we can reply with these parameters down here in the string. So in the return value, I'll just add on by concatenating on the name, and then another piece of a string that says the secret number for today is, and then I'll add that secret number. So this is the welcome message. Let's see how it looks when we run it. All right, the app is up and running. So let's put in our route here. So I'm looking for products, and instead of /message, we're going to erase message, and guess what we're going to put in here? You're right, we're going to put in the word welcome. So welcome is the third method that I've created in my controller. So I press enter, and it doesn't look like it worked. What did I do? I forgot the slash. So I'm going to try it again. So type it correctly this time, and I get the message that says, hello, the secret number for today is 13. So you can see that 13 was provided as a default value, and there was no name provided, so there's just a gap there. Now let's change that. I'm going to put in a question mark, and this is how you can put in parameters. So I'm going to say name equals, and then put your own name in. So I'll say hello, and I'll put name equals Shad, and so it tells me my name. And then if I want to, I can put in another parameter with an ampersand, and then say secret number, and then give it a new value. So I'll say 99. And you can see it changes to 99. Now if you put in some other parameter, just to say like junk equals 9, it will accept the parameter, but there's no program, there's no code in the program to catch that, so it's just ignored. So now I have hello Shad, the secret number today is 99. Now, next I'm going to put this parameter into a web page. So we're going to create another view called welcome, and then pass these values along to it. So let's do that next. So if I'm going to create a web page to return, I'm going to not return a string. So what was the value that we put in here for returning anything? It is the I action results. And then you'll see that there should be an error that comes down at the bottom that says there it is, can't use that one. What we need to do is return a view. And I don't have to put in the word message like I did before. I don't have to put in welcome down here. It's assumed. So what I want to do next is create that view. So right click in this section and add the view. And then we're going to choose Razor View again and add. So there's welcome, and the name is fine, so I'll choose add. Okay, so the application is created, or at least this view is. So if I look in the products folder, I can see there's 3 different views. There's an index, a message, and welcome. So we're in welcome right now. So I want to pass this message that we had along from the name and the secret number. And so I'm going to return to what's called the view bag. So if I want to send something along to the view bag is one method for doing it. As you can see, I'm going to create 2 different parameters. I'm going to call it param1, param2. If you want, it's probably better to use a name that is a little bit more understandable. So I'm going to use the capital name, and then for param2, I'm going to put secret. So I'm changing these simply to show you that the computer really doesn't care what you call them. They're your flexibility, and you just name them something that's logical. Now, how can I get to that view bag? So let's go back to the program, what was it called? Welcome. And let's put something in here. So for the message here on welcome, I'm going to use an H2 for welcome, and then I'm going to use view bag. So in a Razor form, you mix the 2 different languages together, remember? So when we use something that is C#, we started with an @ symbol. So @viewbag.name is C# code. And then the rest of it is don't tell anyone, but the secret number today is, and once again, I will use @ to indicate that this is C# code, and viewbag is a variable that we can get a hold of. Let's see what this does when I run it. So this should show me a custom name. Okay, here we are again. The app is running. So let's go into the right pathway here. Let's do products and welcome. I'm going to leave as name equals Shad, secret equals 99, and we might as well add junk. It doesn't seem to make any difference. But you can see that the message now, it shows up in formatted text, and if I wanted to capitalize, I could probably just change that in the parameter, and now I have my capital name. So that is one way to pass on values through the view bag. It's not the most recommended way, but for our case, it's the simplest way to understand. So let's recap some of the things that we've learned in this lesson so far. So we've looked at controllers and views, which is really 2/3 of what is called MVC. So how hard can it be from here? Well, it will get more complex, but let's take a look at some of the items. So first of all, a route is something that you noticed as a URL that is typed into your browser. And so the program handles different routes according to the controllers that you make. So a controller is responsible for returning output to the browser. A controller can have many methods called actions. So we saw welcome as one of our methods. We saw message as another one, and index is the default. So a controller can return a string, and we return to view, or it can return other things, such as JSON formatted data. And a view is something that should be familiar to you if you've ever done any web pages before. It's HTML code, and in this case, since we're writing things with ASP.NET, the code is a blend of C# and HTML. So I'd like to leave you with a challenge now. So I've got products listed here as my controller. Make another controller for something else, such as users or maybe orders or some other common thing that an application works with. And then create a method, maybe called welcome, maybe called index. Make some methods that would have different actions. And then pass along some parameters like I did, and pass them through the view bag so that they show up on the page. So reinforcing your programming will actually make you remember it better. So right now you've just been doing monkey see, monkey do. Do your own thing. See if you can remember all the steps and troubleshoot, and of course experiment. You can't break anything. This is just a sample application. So we're going to go into the next application soon, and we'll explore further with passing data through these URLs.